Hi everyone, so today what I wanted to do was a review on 3 different types of MAC foundations which I have tried previously, what my thoughts are on them, and just to advise you in case you were wondering about what kind of foundation you would like to try from theirs. First off, let me just say that if you are unsure about things like what colour you could be, what kind of foundation is best for you, best thing to do is to actually go to a MAC counter or a MAC store, and they are actually kind enough to give you samples. I mean, what I'll do is I will show you, because the most recent MAC foundation that I bought was the Studio Sculpt, and I read that the Studio Sculpt actually runs darker than the Studio Fix Fluid, which I've been using for probably about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. So I asked, the colour that I am in Studio Fix Fluid, which is this one right here, is NC40. So obviously if this runs lighter, than the Studio Sculpt, I tried the Studio Sculpt in NC42. So this is a little sample what they give you, and they gave me in NC42. And what they are kind enough to do is they actually fill it up completely for you, and I was able to probably use this for about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit less than 2 weeks, so you are able to determine whether it is worth getting it. They don't scrimp when it comes to samples. Okay, so the first kind of foundation that I ever used from theirs was the Mineralized Satinfinish, which is like this. As you can see, this is almost finished, and this is again in NC40. So the first thing is it comes with a really cool applicator at the top, so you just literally twist it that way and then you just press down. So it's one good thing about this, because I think this may be the only actual foundation that has this kind of lid, in that it stops it leaking, but it's easy to just pump it out, whereas with things like the Studio Fix Fluid is just literally a lid and then the liquid is in there like that. So the first thing I'll talk about is the Mineralized Satinfinish. So this is probably a low to medium coverage, and I used this initially because I think I purchased it when it had first come out, so I was quite new to MAC at the time. So this is a couple of years back now, and I do not have the greatest skin. When I was a teenager, I used to get quite bad acne. I used to squeeze my spots, I used to pick them, and it's left quite bad scarring on my cheeks, and I've also got quite large pores as well. So as much as it may look alright on camera, trust me, it's not. But I did try this. I probably used this for about a year, and maybe I was under the impression at the time that it gave me quite good coverage because I used to put quite a lot of it on. But you should not have to pile your foundation on, which obviously I found out now. The more that I've used products, the more that I've learned about makeup, I've learned that, you know, you should not have to, when it comes to foundation especially, have to cake it on, like put so much on. I mean, it didn't used to look cakey, but I used to use quite a lot of it, and I thought I really should not be putting this much on. So yeah, so this gives a low to medium coverage. It does give a nice glow. It's quite sheer. It's not matte, I wouldn't say, so it kind of gives maybe a slight sheen to the skin, but like a nice dewy glow. And what I do nowadays is I only use this in the summertime, because you know, you naturally kind of get a little bit darker in the sun, you have like a natural tan, a natural glow, and when it comes to scarring and things like that, having a little bit of a tan, I mean, I don't actively go and sit out in the sun, but it just happens from wandering around outside, obviously, unless you sit indoors all day, which nobody does. So with a little bit of a suntan, it's just sun-kissed probably, a lot of the scars would kind of and blemishes would kind of cover themselves up. So I only really want kind of a light dewy kind of glow to my skin, so I would literally just kind of dab 2 dots on and spread it around, and maybe put a little bit of powder on top, and that would be fine. So for anybody who is looking for a low to medium coverage for their skin, this would be the best thing. And obviously, as with all MAC foundations, it's SPF 15, which is great. Let's see, I wear my foundation for probably 12-13 hours a day. It lasts almost all day, I would say. but obviously the longer the day goes on, the more it kind of you kind of get a bit shiny, so I have to put a bit of blotting powder on. But regardless, I do recommend this more for the summer months than anything else, because in the summer you don't tend to want too much of a full coverage because you do look cakey and a bit fake, to be honest. So the next thing that is probably been my holy grail after I stopped using, I mean I still do use the satin finish, but the Studio Fix fluid, which a lot of you know about. So this gives medium to high coverage, again depending on how much you put on. I tend to not put a lot of this on because I don't really need to. I use a 190 foundation brush to put this on. I know some people like to put it on with sponges, but I feel that that's a waste because a lot of the foundation actually gets soaked up into the sponge, and it distributes it well, but you're wasting again foundation because it's just getting soaked up into the sponge. I also don't like to use my fingers because it doesn't give even distribution on your skin as much as you may think it does. You may be putting a bit more in one place and a little bit less in the other, and as it kind of dries on, you're not really aware, and then you end up putting on more than you really have to. So this is probably one of the most popular foundations by MAC. Again, I'm an NC40 in this colour. I love this foundation, it's great. One of these will last me probably about 5 to 6 months. I only really have to buy 2 a year, which is great. It gives excellent coverage to the skin. You don't need to put too much on and still be able to get a decent amount of coverage. It gives a lovely even coverage. I wouldn't say that it leaves a matte finish to the skin. I mean, it does say that on the website and other descriptions from MAC artists, but this is obviously my own opinion. I've got combination skin, and I feel that maybe slightly matte, but maybe a little bit dewy, so a little bit of both, which isn't bad because I don't like to look too matte, because otherwise you just kind of look like a doll, just flat, and then you end up having to rely too much on things like bronzers and some mineralized skin finishes and things like, and blushes and things like that, to kind of bring out a bit of dimension, a bit of character to your skin. So I do like that about this. Again, this lasts probably about 12 hours or so. I mean, it probably lasts even longer, but I don't really wear makeup for that long. I end up coming home and washing it off or whatever it is. But other than that, I would highly recommend this for people that want medium to high coverage to their skin. Again, make sure you get a sample and check this out. Highly recommend it. Okay, and the next and the final one, which I've only been using for about 2 weeks, because obviously here was my sample. So I actually did go out and buy the Studio Sculpt foundation. So this is again medium to high coverage, probably I would say more on the high coverage end. It is a gel based one, whereas the other ones are more liquidy based. This one is quite gel based, if you can see. It kind of comes out like that. So you see the lighter one, which is the NC40, that is the Studio Fix, and then the other one is the Studio Sculpt. See the difference in the consistencies? Studio Sculpt is a lot thicker and the other one is a little bit more runny. That is again because the Studio Sculpt, even though it being a liquid foundation, it's a gel liquid foundation, and I only actually, the amount that I squeezed out is probably all I need to use on one side of my cheek, and then I put another one on the same side of my cheek, a little dollop here, a little dollop there and there, and I spread it around, and it gives me perfect coverage. I don't actually need to put any more than that. So again, I've been using this for about 2 weeks. I do find that again it's relatively matte, but it's not dewy, and I almost find it as if it's it kind of feels so smooth after I've applied it. It's almost like it's my natural skin, but it's not my natural skin, if that makes sense, because obviously there are no blemishes and whatnot. So I really do love my Studio Sculpt. I do definitely think it's worth the money, and I think this is probably going to last me a long time, considering that I won't be using so much of it. So again, I highly recommend this. I do love the fact that it gives pretty much flawless coverage to my skin. It's easy to apply, it's not runny, I really love the fact that it comes in a tube like this, so it's easy to carry around, as well as easy to get out of the actual tube itself, because you won't waste anything. Like with the other two foundations, they come in a jar and it's not like you can actually stick your fingers inside and scoop it out. At least with this one, even when it comes right to the end, you'll be able to squeeze and eke out every last drop of this foundation. So I really do love it. It does cost a little bit more than the other two. I think the other two cost about £19 and I think this was about £22, but I do think it is definitely worth the extra expense. So I really do hope that you found my reviews helpful. Take care, see you soon, bye.